Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
It is 7:07. It's O'Connor and Company as we kick off the second half of our morning show extravaganza. If you missed the first half, the best thing for you to do is to wake up bright and early like we do. Second best thing is to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode, you never miss a segment, and you never miss an interview. Do that, won't you? And we're on Apple and Spotify and YouTube and all the places you get your podcasts. Thank you for that. Coming up at 7:35, former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sung will join us on latest D.C. crime issues. And then at 8:05, Nick Minnock of WJLA ABC 7 on the Virginia governor's race and the showdown between the Education Department and Virginia school systems. It's Larry O'Connor, and that there is the pride of Alexandria. She's everybody's best gal next door. She's Julie Gunlock. Are you hearing from any of your neighbors this morning after your
a few
your tirade against what's her name again? Becky Hammer.
Becky Hammer
trying to dox the Attorney General. That's not going to end well for her, by the way. Attorneys General take that stuff seriously. She might want to might want to lawyer up. All right, joining us right now is the Republican nominee for Congress in the 11th Congressional District of Virginia. Special election underway now as Virginia has this early voting scheme. His name is Stewart Whitson. Mr. Whitson, you're killing it, sir. I hope you're having fun. You look like you're having fun.
Larry and Julie, good morning. Thanks for having me on. We're having a lot of fun. And so you guys know this. For 16 long years, the voters in our district didn't really have a choice because Conley had just such a tight grip on the seat. But with the dynamics of this special election, we really do have a choice. And you know this too, the choices couldn't be more different. And so we had a debate on Monday night that's actually out on YouTube now that the League of Women Voters hosted. But people should watch that just to see how different the two choices are, both in the experience we bring to the table, but also the policies where we stand. So,
yeah, Mr. Whitson, I got to help me out here because I did watch much of this debate, and I am confused. I know you're running as the Republican nominee against James Walkinshaw, current member of the Fairfax County Supervisors. You know, all those taxes, all the crime problems, all the school problems, that's his fault. But it seems like Mr. Walkinshaw is running against Donald Trump and Elon Musk, right?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he is laser focused on President Trump, and I'm laser focused on the people in our district. And you can see that just in the debate the whole time. I lost count of the number of times he mentioned the president's name. But,
it was amazing. It was remarkable.
I mean,
and this is common sense.
Sorry. I mean, what's so interesting, too, is Walkinshaw actually worked for Jerry Connolly. I don't know if a lot of people know that, but I mean, this is sort of one of these, insider clubs. Let's just pass it on to one of my staffers or one of my family members. It's very typical in Democrat politics to do that, to sort of find the heir apparent and just pass it on. But what voters need to understand is they're passing on those exact same policies. If you want more of the same, he's your guy. But if you want change and reform and a better standard of living, that's what I heard in that debate. That's what you were offering the people of this district.
No, Julie, you're spot on. So, my background is a lifetime of service. So Army combat veteran, 10 years in the FBI, worked at a conservative think tank. So a lifetime of service to our country. He literally has a lifetime of service to Connolly. So that's the reason he's there. And so that you can see that's why the things he's focused on. But what is it right now? What are the two things that they're so laser focused on? It's radical transgender policy and soft on crime policies. And so the convergence of those two things together really is creating a scenario that's putting our kids' safety in jeopardy. And so we've got to speak out against that and stop this nonsense. And people are seeing it, everything from the Richard Cox scandal to everything going on at the Fairfax County Public Schools, and their, fight to try to keep boys in girls' locker rooms. I mean, it's nonsense, and we've got to stand up and stop it.
Well, we've also had this report that Fairfax County Public Schools say they're investigating. Something tells me the results of the investigation won't come out until after the upcoming election days. but it's been reported and at this point not denied that Fairfax County school administrators or teachers of some sort actually facilitated two underage girls to get abortions without notifying their parents and funding it. I haven't heard anything from your opponent, Mr. Walkinshaw, about this. He actually has some oversight over the school system right now in his role as supervisor, county supervisor. What do you make of this story, and do you think that this should be, is this the correct policy for Fairfax County schools?
No, so I immediately called for an investigation, not by Fairfax County Public Schools, but by our Attorney General and the DOJ and FBI if warranted. And so just to highlight this, I mean, the allegations are that two young girls were not just helped to get an abortion and paid for with taxpayer dollars, but it coerced into getting the abortion. And why do I say that? Because one of the girls, the statement she gave, she was told by this staffer, this is your only choice. And she ran from the facility crying. That's her statement. So that tells you this isn't just going on behind doors. There's actually coercion. And you've got to say, there are so many great teachers and coaches and other staff. It is really just radical folks at the top that are pushing dangerous policy, and they've hijacked our education system, and it's got to stop.
I also saw you did Meet the Press the other day, the daily Meet the Press show that MSNBC does. So it's good that you're actually getting some national attention. I'm curious, I didn't watch it. Were they hostile to you? Was it typical what you would expect? But secondary question, it seems like your opponent, Mr. Walkinshaw, he's taking the Biden strategy. He's campaigning from his basement. He doesn't want to talk to anybody.
Yeah, we had the interview was yesterday on Meet the Press Now, and so that's available online. People should go watch it. I think they did try to be hostile, but I don't think it worked very well because here's what they're trying to do, Larry. They're trying to push back on the president's efforts to bring safety to D.C. And so stopping crime in D.C. should be nonpartisan. This is the hill. These are the hills they want to die on, is crime and forcing radical transgender policy on our kids. And so these are both, they're just losing arguments. And so that's what their arguments were about. And I think I did a pretty good job. People should check that out. You can find it on our social media site.
You are so well-spoken on these issues, and not just the local issues, but national issues. If we can play cut 3, Michael, because I thought your answer on Medicaid was brilliant. Let's just real quick play cut 3.
And the reconciliation bill, the big BS bill, is going to roll a lot of that back. And it has a serious impact on our schools. As you noted, Medicaid provides critical funding for health care for kids who are in our schools each and every day. And I'll point out what this bill does. It's really insidious. It establishes a series of work requirements, which aren't really about getting people, as Stewart says, anyone who doesn't have a job is sitting on the couch all day playing video games. I don't think that's right, but that's what he says.
Yeah, I thought we were going to play your response because you went on to say, look, this is not a cut to Medicaid. Give us the response you gave to that comment by Walkinshaw.
Yeah, so one of the favorite talking points of the left-wing media is that Medicaid was cut by the big, beautiful bill. But that's wrong. And the facts show that's wrong. The language shows that wrong. So Medicaid spending will go up by 25% over the next 10 years, even after passage of the big, beautiful bill. The other thing is they call cuts to Medicaid kicking people off the program who aren't legally entitled to be on the program. That is not a cut. And who am I talking about? 1.4 million illegal aliens getting kicked off the program. That's not cutting Medicaid benefits. They're not legally entitled to the program. Well, and so we have to set the record straight.
Yeah, and also Walkinshaw calling it insidious to have work requirements. I mean, that also is a little bit of a spotlight on how radical he is.
Yeah, I mean, these are common. The work requirements, too, people should know, it's 20 hours a week to either work, train, or just look for work or volunteer.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just 20 hours a week, and it doesn't apply to people that have kids younger than the age of 15.
Or disabled.
So these are really common sense.
Yes.
Stewart Whitson, you're in the home stretch. Early voting going on right now. Give us all the details if people want to support you to get you across the finish line.
Look, it's time to protect our kids. It's time to restore parents' rights. It's time to bring common sense back to Northern Virginia, and I'll do that if elected, but I can only get elected if the people listening right now go out and vote. And so you have to go vote today. If you can't vote today, then make a plan and get it done right away, because voting has already started. The deadline to vote is September 9th. And so go to our website to find out locations and hours for voting. It's whitsonforcongress.com, WHITSONFOR Congress.com.
All right, get back out there, knock on doors. Let's go.
All right, thanks so much. Great to talk to you.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
And that's kind of what President Trump did when he looked down at the border wall. You know, these large metal straight slats, you know, that are, 20 feet high or what have you. It's not really a wall. It's more of a metal barrier. And he said, hey, maybe we should paint that black. And I think his advisors were like, well, sir, if you paint that metal fence black, then that means in the desert heat down there at the Rio Grande and in Arizona, California, it's going to get so hot that if you touch it, you'll burn your hands. And he goes, yeah, definitely paint it black. Here's Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, making the announcement. Oh, I had it all queued up, and now it's not. Hit standby. Here's Kristi Noem. Nope, the video's jammed. All right, well, Kristi Noem made the announcement yesterday. And if you're wondering, oh, gosh, it sounds like they're doing that on purpose. Yes, it's very much 100% on purpose. Because people, you know, some of the people who are trying to cross the border are, you know, like Cirque du Soleil acrobats or something. Yeah. Jobs that Americans won't do. So they, like, get in there and they, like, shimmy up over the thing. And some of them are getting over. They are getting apprehended. They're not allowed to stay in the country. But still, the whole point of a border wall that Abigail Spanberger laughed at is to prevent people from doing that. So they are now painting it black across the board, specifically because it will burn people's hands if they try to climb it.
And everybody now has to brace for the crying about burnt hands, okay?
Oh, yes.
You know, how cruel. They didn't make it easy to climb that fence. They're so mean.
That's
because the point of a wall is to keep people out, okay? I hate to remind the libs about this, but that's the point of the wall. Now, of course, there'll be, like, you know, suddenly a rush on, you know, gloves, gardening gloves. But, hey, whatever they can do to keep people from coming over, that's the point of an immigration policy and a closed border.
Right. What did Minnesota Governor Tim Walz say? Oh, they built a 20-foot wall. I'm just going to sell 30-foot ladders.
Yes.
I remember when Obama gave his speech a bit when he was still president. He said, you know, Republicans, they put a fence up here, a wall, and a moat with alligators. And I'm like, Trump is literally going to do that.
Great idea.
He is so ready to do that.
Right.
That'll be next. Of course, the border security provisions that they've already put in place have been fantastic and really have resulted in success. But they're, you know, utilizing whatever extra steps they need. Kristi Noem did not say how much it would cost to paint the wall. The administration just secured about $46.5 billion in funding from the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, so one suggests that that might be part of it. They also plan on completing construction on 700 miles of primary wall that never got finished. We also have an update now on this story we told you yesterday. This illegal alien from India who got a commercial driver's license and a work permit, all under Democrat leadership, and then did this illegal, horrific U-turn on the highway in Florida. It was caught on video, and it resulted in the death of, I believe, 3 individuals. Who and he just sort of shrugged when it happened. It's one of the most chilling things you'll ever see. Well, we have details here now. Secretary of Transportation Sean Duffy said that the actual commercial driver's license was first issued by Washington State, again, Democrats. This was a full-term commercial driver's license. By the way, this person was already lined up for deportation, then claimed asylum status because he was afraid to go back to India. I'm sorry, is there religious persecution in India that I don't know about? Is there political persecution in India that I don't know about? But as soon as you say that, okay, I'm going to get my hearing. And that was, of course, 7 years ago. So in the meantime, he got a commercial driver's license. Asylum seekers, illegal aliens are not allowed to receive anything like this. No. Now, if you happen to live in a state that is weak and they give driver's license to illegal immigrants, at the very least, it's only for a basic, what do they call it, a Class A driver's license or whatever it is, not a commercial driver's license to drive a semi for a living.
Frankly.
Yeah, it's scary enough that they get a driver's license.
But then they also have this other check you're probably getting to it, the English test, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this guy, they gave him an English test. He only got 1 of 4 road signs right on this test. So there were multiple indications. I mean, first of all, there was laws broken and all this stuff. But then also, he couldn't read the road signs.
Yes.
And they still gave him a license.
Well, he also got pulled over by police officers in New Mexico. The New Mexico police failed to conduct an English language proficiency test when they pulled him over for speeding. Had they done that, he would have been taken off the road if New Mexico. So have you noticed a pattern of behavior here? What states are we talking about? Washington State, California, New Mexico. Also, under the Trump administration, he was denied a work permit while he waited for his asylum status, but the Biden administration granted him his work permit. All of that led to him driving that semi-trailer, tractor trailer, making the illegal U-turn in Florida and killing those innocent people driving a 40-ton vehicle.
3 people died horrifically. Can you imagine the fear they felt before they went under that truck? They were killed instantly, but it is horrific to think of that death.
It is 7:24.
Coming up, we'll talk to our friend, former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund. He'll give us his thoughts on D.C. crime and Trump's efforts to reduce it. Keep it here at 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
Busy morning here on O'Connor and Company. The time is 7:37, and coming up at 8:05, we're going to check in with our buddy Nick Minnock, WJLA ABC 7, latest on those 5 Virginia school systems, Northern Virginia, who are defying the Department of Education. Well, the Department of Education has responded. We'll give you the latest on that and the governor's race with Nick Minnock at 8:05. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Julie Gunlock. Good morning, Jules.
Good morning.
Joining us right now, friend of the program, former Capitol Police Chief Stephen Sund, to comment on how things are developing right now with the new relationship between federal law enforcement agencies and the Metropolitan Police Department. Chief Sund, thanks for joining us. You actually were MPD for a while as well, weren't you?
That is correct. A little over a quarter of a century, 25 years patrolling their streets.
That counts. So you know how these agencies work. We had you on to sort of give us your expertise on the handshake and chain of command. Yep. By the way, could you believe the chief of D.C. Police not quite understanding what chain of command means? That must have been like nails on a chalkboard for you.
Oh, it went through the entire department. Yeah, that's bad answer. Not the right answer.
Although explains a lot. Listen, what's your assessment so far? I know that you were using social media to highlight the drop in some of the major categories like carjackings and robberies. Is that a direct result of this new cooperation?
There's no other way of looking at it than being a direct result. And I just checked that again this morning because I was just so shocked. A city that had 497 carjackings in 2024 has only had 1 since this occurred, and guess what? There's still only 1 since this occurred. I checked it last night, and there's still only 1. It's incredible. You know, you look at it, you're down 83% in carjackings, robberies down 46%, violent crime 22%. It's having an effect. I'm hearing that both from citizens, but also from D.C. police.
You also on social media talked about how these initiatives have been implemented before. You say, I know these crime-fighting initiatives work. We've implemented them before with local and federal partners, including the National Guard. what is your reaction to the hysteria, not just of the media, but some of the local DC officials who said this is federalizing things and this is taking over the city, and this sort of free DC movement among some of, I would say, the free DC movement among some Arlington, Alexandria, and Montgomery County residents? What are your thoughts on that?
Oh, you're seeing that not only in Arlington and Montgomery County, you're seeing it out in California as well, people talking about D.C. I think it's absolutely disgusting. These people are playing politics with people's lives.
Yep.
They haven't patrolled the streets. They haven't had to come up and see some of the violent crime that happens. They haven't seen family members victimized by crime. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're taking this position. These things work. People want to see safety. People want to see security. You're hearing about it. You're hearing people east of the river saying, hey, we want to see more police. And they're going to see more police because they want to live in safety. Like these people that are probably complaining live in far more safe areas. And they make it easy for them to complain. I think it's absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
What about the other talking point we're hearing, which, either they're saying there is no crime and this is unnecessary, or they're saying, well, yeah, there's crime, but you're not actually in the neighborhoods where the crime is. It seems to me that if the federal law enforcement presence and the National Guard and just sort of that new show of force is patrolling in areas that are highly trafficked by tourists and that sort of thing, that frees up MPD to go back into the neighborhoods where they've got higher crime rates. I mean, it's not one or the other, right?
So there's two things about it. One, you're absolutely correct. When you can give resources to the areas where you're having the tourists, Union Station, and I was downtown yesterday. I was in Northwest, Northeast, and Southeast yesterday, and the absence of weed was definitely recognized. And I saw people
Nice.
patrolling. This was I didn't get east of the river. But it does. It frees up Metro Transit, it frees up MPD, it frees up Park Police to go then and patrol some of the parks in Anacostia and the different areas where you have this crime. But the other thing is this. There used to be a time years ago where you'd have crime and it would stay in the neighborhoods. It would stay in some of the areas east of the river. It'd stay in the Northeast and in 5D. It'd stay in that area. But that's not the case anymore. These people have now gotten very transit. They're transit on these scooters. They're getting around the city. And crime now is all over the place. It's getting into Georgetown. It's getting into Northwest. So you need to patrol the areas. One, you need to make people feel safe. You need to have it needs to affect the tourist areas. And I'll tell you, the tourist areas, there was a distinctive change in just the atmosphere yesterday. So I thought it is absolutely working. Now, the other thing, as far as what they're seeing east of the river, they're working on the teams. The teams are being deployed everywhere, so they're all into all 7 police districts.
There's been a lot of talk, particularly from us and other news outlets that are interested in telling the truth, about manipulated crime data, and now it looks like U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Janine Pirro, is looking at this as well. Can you talk a little bit about that manipulated crime drama? Do you have was this happening when you were part of the police department? Because this seems like a sort of newer phenomenon.
So the crime statistics play a big role in just how operations happen within any police department. But the big concerning thing is, and I think that it drives a lot of concern over the truth of statistics, is, commanders, when I say commanders, patrol district commanders, they really live and die on their crime stats. If the crime stats are going up, there's a chance they could be removed. So it gives a really concern of just how is there any subjectivity over the crime stats. Are they looking at stuff and saying, well, is that a theft or is they lost property? So you begin to worry about that. It should be, I think, more clean cut. When you look at the Part 1 crimes, the rapes, the homicides, things like that, those are easy. It's the thefts, the break-ins of cars that then begin a little bit more subjective. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more visibility on that. I've heard about what's going on in Washington, D.C. With the current investigation. And I always think there's going to be more to the story when you look into that maybe there's some bad blood going on. I don't know. I'm waiting to hear what that investigation brings forth because, I think you need to be very specific, very accurate with these statistics. If people don't trust, what they say, liars use statistics and statistics lie. When people don't trust your statistics, they begin not to trust your department. So I hope it comes out that it's been, truthful above board. But again, I just think my concern is there's just too much subjectivity to these things.
Chief Son, stay with us because I want to ask about the immigration aspect of this, and I think people might be surprised at how many illegal immigrants have been picked up in this sweep here in the nation's capital. Apparently, we're a border town. So we'll continue with Chief Son in just a moment at 7:43. We continue with former Chief of Police for the Capitol Police Department, Stephen Son. We're talking about the cooperation now between federal law enforcement and the Metropolitan Police Department under the direction of President Trump. And this should only last for about 30 days. Real quickly, before we get to the immigration issue, Chief Son, will there be long-lasting effects of this if sadly this ends after 30 days? Are we going to be right back to normal?
I sure hope not, and I'm sure the citizens of D.C. hope not either. I'd really like to see some of these anti-police legislation that's out there get changed. I'd like to see some of these D.C. Superior Courts get nominated, get appointed, like Eddie O'Connell. We'll see. But I'm hoping that this is going to have a big enough impact that there's just a push from the community for this to continue.
Yeah. I was shocked to see the numbers. I shouldn't say I was shocked, but it was eye-opening to see the numbers of illegal immigrants arrested in this sweep as ICE agents were also engaged in these activities. What can you tell us about that?
So I think right now, out of the 465 arrests, the latest I've heard is a little over 200 are illegal immigrants. And again, that is eye-opening for me as well. But what's important to realize is those are arrests that wouldn't have occurred if it wasn't for this federal initiative. Because under D.C. law, under city council passed legislation, MPD is not allowed to inquire or make those arrests. And what I'm hearing from D.C., a lot of the D.C. cops are, when I talked about crime being transient, part of the way it's being transient is through these illegal scooters. If you've been down there, you've seen these people driving these, it looks like mopeds, and they're reckless. They sweave in and out of traffic, but they're all over the city. The three things that are needed: they need to be registered, you need to have insurance, and you need to have a driver's license, a license for operating them. So DC police will see these scooters in packs and surrounded by a bunch of people. They'll go in and start investigating the scooters. They can look at the scooters because they have no license plates on them, so they're parked illegally on the street, but they can't inquire with the people around them. So they'll begin to take these scooters. Well, now with the federal assistance, they're inquiring with the people around them. The people deny having any knowledge of them, but the federal officers that are with them begin to check about the immigration status, and that's where they're ended up picking up a lot of these illegal aliens.
Chief Son, I'd love to get your thoughts on how the media is covering this. Peter Baker over at the New York Times said that, people going down to, first of all, he said there was no crime. Then he said, he shared some crime statistics. But his latest thing is, and this isn't just him, many other media outlets are blaming a reduction in restaurant, people going out to restaurants is because of Trump's crackdown. They like to say the crackdown on crime. And then it turns out, actually, they're comparing this week to last year. And last year, it was restaurant week. So, of course, there was an elevation in the number of people going out to restaurants. They didn't even, Abigail Jackson over at the White House, in the White House comms office, she said they didn't even reach out to the White House to check on this. There was no sort of, fact checking. And we know why. The media, the mainstream corporate media has an interest in pushing this narrative. How do you feel about that? How do you respond to that? And what's the best way to push back and really inform district residents that this is a good thing?
So, one very good catch on looking back and finding out that was a restaurant week. That was great detective work. It's sad because, the thing that I think is so crazy is I would not go down to D.C. Up until just recently, I was like, no, there's no way I'd go down to D.C. And I've actually thought about going down to a restaurant. So it's funny you mentioned that. I think here what you need to do is, one, get the talk from people on the street. I think when you hear about some of these people that are in the communities, in different areas, talking about the change they're seeing, that has a huge impact. I think that is what needs to get out there more, both from D.C. community residents and tourists coming into the city. That is what I think is going to carry a lot of weight for these people to say, hey, this is actually working.
Real fast, Chief Son, can you give us an update on the fight over your pension here because of your forced resignation?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate that. Still, fighting the good fight. Chairman Barry Loudermilk, he's getting ready to continue the January 6th stuff. It seems like I'm getting more and more congressional support to get back the pension that was stripped from me. I think some executive branch support would really be helpful. I think to push this across the finish line. But for me, it's about the principle. I tried to stop it in advance. I tried to stop it while it was under, happening, and Nancy Pelosi comes out and strips me and forces my retirement. My resignation, and strips me of my benefits. I don't think that should stand. And
well,
I appreciate you asking about it.
We'll have certain members of the executive branch listening, and let us know if we need to make some calls. All right. Thank you, Chief Sung.
I appreciate that.
I'm not saying it's not going to do anything. We're just going to make the calls. We have absolutely no power and no influence whatsoever. It's 7:53.